in the RDP teacher files, though, so if you want to watch some of my past one-to-ones and like my CPT meetings and stuff like that. I filmed 5th grade CPT today. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. Okay, cool. Yeah, so what'd you see in the highlight?
I noticed there was, well, when I was going through and reading them, I noticed that I did have a few students who were getting 9s out of 10s, 10 out of 10s.
Right? Wasn't that exciting?
Especially with the writing component, so I was really nervous about that. What I did notice was a lot of it is 63% were below.
Yeah.
And I noticed a large challenge in their writing, but then what I was surprised to see was them the RLK3 standard with the identifying characters and setting.
Mm-hmm.
That actually threw me off because I feel like we've been talking about that for so long in all the story elements that I was feeling pretty confident about those questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be important for us to look a little bit deeper at like what were the types of questions, because I also saw I saw that as being like kind of a bit of a head scratcher for me too.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I looked a little bit deeper at the actual types of questions, they didn't necessarily align exactly with the types of RL K3 questions that we've seen before.
Yeah, they were a little more.
Yeah, they were a little bit more like. Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll jump into this, but I saw them as being like a little bit more sequence oriented here. I saw that being a really big emphasis with those questions, and so I found them different than, you know, I think in the last unit when we went after ROK3, there was a lot of like, what is the problem? Yeah. What is the solution? You know, like very factual, very like identify these story elements, and I think we nailed that stuff. We spent a lot of time on it, and then this was like, you know, the question type to contrast there was like, what is Carlos most likely thinking at the end of the story? Right?
Yeah.
What is
So when I was going back through
at the beginning of the story, Cam felt blank. At the end of the story, Cam felt blank.
Yeah, definitely. Because when I was going back through it, like there'll be the answer or the answers to kind of catch them, and they would be circling like, well, it happened in the story, but not at the end of the story.
Right. Right, exactly. So I think it's really important here that we like keep in mind too, like the ways in which the question shifts. But I'm glad that you pulled that out as a red flag there, because I think it is important to say like, hey, if we spend some time on this, we should be seeing some traction here. And so what is it that's causing it to stay kind of persistently low there?
Yeah.
As far as those 63% below basic, well, I guess before I ask this question, I will also note here too, not a tremendous jump, but overall percentage score moved from 34% in the pass round to 40.6. So we saw a little bit of a jump in like the overall average, but we see like the percent that are still below basic being more or less the same as previous assessments. So we wanna target that in a really specific way. When you looked at that bucket there, and what kinds of things in particular came to mind in terms of next steps?
I feel like it's a lot of the same students. So I think especially targeting it, like when I was looking over the data analysis and doing the small group instruction, I didn't quite get in there yet, but to target that a lot within like graded reading groups. And today I even started it like going over the setting and the different story elements like within the books that we're looking at. So I was talking with Nathan, and he was able to tell me like the setting and the characters and whatnot of the story. So I was having to use the pictures. Well, why do you, like, how do you know this is the character? Right. And then go into like, the story chant and whatnot. But so just really circling back on all of those.
And I think it's also important to note here too that like, yes, small group instruction is going to be key, but I think with a bucket large enough, like with 63%, it also like most of it, and you'll see too, like reflected within, you know, a lot of my game planning, most of it is within the whole group skill reteach. Yeah. It's because I think they're large enough and concentrated enough across the whole team that it just makes sense to kind of, and is most efficient to go at it in a whole group sense. And then our small group work we'll get a better sense of after we kind of reflect on the next batch of step data. And thank you guys again for putting that, for asking the question about that, because I think it had us thinking about it a little bit more. Okay, so let's dig into some specific standards. You already called out K3. What did you see in K1 and K2?
K1 and K2. Well, since there was only like really 3 standards, I feel like we can kind of target them all as a priority standard to readdress.
I'm with you.
So for K1, it was ask and answer about key details in a text, and I noticed for question 1, half of them got it right. So it was a total, just like a wash almost.
Yeah. And I saw that too, right? It was 54% for your particular class here. But also, like, look at what the question is asking, because I feel like
it's saying what it's mostly about, and as we go through the plans and it's the oral drills, it's what's the main idea. But then also they should know, because we do say the main ideas of the story is mostly about.
But I think that's a really good catch there, and not something that I necessarily. Oh no, I have it here with me. But in terms of reteaching main idea, not just asking what is the main idea, but also what is so mostly about.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna add that in here.
There was even something like that on language board with the setting. It was name a place, and the kids like were able to say what a setting was, but not what a place was.
I'm gonna share you on my pre-work here, and I think I'm just gonna add the notes in here.
Okay.
Because I think some of these things I've already captured, and so it might just be more efficient for us to go based on that. Let me know if you got that.
That's open.
Alright, so I'm looking there at the second one on the whole group reteach, and so I put in there reteach main idea. So the story is mostly about, read carefully throughout the story, notice the important details, ask what the story is mostly about. What more can we do with this? Because I think like restating the key points is going to be important, but I don't know, I'm just thinking more on like the executional side, on the content side, like what has been missing there that keeps them from making the connection, that keeps them from making the leap.
Well, I think really just spiraling it into every lesson, to like read aloud and reading comprehensions, like just go back and so it's the story mostly about.
Yeah, let me put that in the next steps there. So daily questioning about main idea for each new text. Ask in a variety of ways, it sounds like.
Yeah, not just what's the main idea, but other terms too.
Yep. So let's brainstorm some of those. What would those be? So what is the story mostly about?
Yep, what's the story mostly about? And then using the sequence words too to help retell it, or help retell the main ideas from the different parts of the story.
Oh, that's a good idea. I'll put that here in the key points there. So we can use sequence words to help us put the important parts of the story in order. What would be another way though that someone would ask a main idea question? So we said, what is the story mostly about? We had already said, what is the main idea?
Yeah. What was the topic of the story?
Yeah, especially as we move into a nonfiction unit, that might be our best way to get at it.
Yeah.
What is the topic of the story? Main idea, yeah.
I guess you can even break it down into like the details. What are the details you found from the story?
Yeah, that's useful for
the
the
main
lines
idea.
there, yeah. Ask. Flipped questions. Give main idea. Ask what details support this main idea. Or maybe like what shows us that the story is about. Great, good ideas. Cool, let's talk a little bit since we're on K1 already. Let's just dig in a little bit more into some of the other. Cool. Is everybody all right out there? I'm in. He's a funny little guy. The other question that was low here was, and it's telling too of the types of misconceptions that we're kind of addressing, which best describes the main idea of the story. So question 7, and I think that one is an example of just what you illustrated there, like the flipped question, right? Which best describes it. It kind of is looking for more like details oriented to that main idea. Anything else that we want to go after here within these questions?
Especially with number 7, so for having to like think back to the title, even of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So like Carlos has a bad day, and they really got like tuned in on the Legos. Because most of them were the story. Main idea of the story was Carlos playing Legos.
All right, so teach strategies for looking back to the title of the story.
Yeah.
To determine the main idea.
Or even the patterns within the story too. Like, he had a bad day. He was not having a good day.
Yeah, so what could be a question that prompts them to think about that? A pattern in the story.
What words do you notice were used?
Yeah, okay, so words.
What words did you hear?
Yeah, I'm gonna put words, comma, details, comma, ideas. Did you hear throughout the story? And I think whenever we locate those details, it's just like, why is that important? What does it tell us about the main idea of the story?
Maybe this doesn't matter, but it might have also been a little bit confusing because there was a pretty big typo in the
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
Number 7 is talking about Carlos, but the story was all about Cam, and the first story was about Carlos. Yeah. That might have been a little.
That is definitely fair to scratch one's head about that.
Yeah.
And so let me look at it a little bit closer because that's worth digging into. Let me take a look here at the distractors and see what they actually chose. Because if they chose one of the ones that like said something that didn't have to do with Carlos plays Legos with mom, I think most of them chose A though, right?
Yeah. They got really into
So I don't think they were like reading through it to the level of detail. To like distinguish Carlos from Cam, and clearly the test writers weren't either. The other thing I was thinking about too here, and this is something that's a little bit out of order, not necessarily like thinking about like our lowest students. When I looked at that bottom bucket here too, I also noticed that, you know, like I printed it out here. A lot of these students here that are lowest there are also probably the ones that don't like know their letters and so would have difficulty finding and encountering. Do you think that is a factor in any way?
I don't.
No.
Because they'll also just circle it. So
Yeah.
I point to it as I say it too, so
Gotcha.
they can see.
So they're making the connection.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to throw it out there as a possible thing to think about.
Yeah, I think that unless you have any ideas on how to.
I mean,
learn
really
their
it's just
letters.
like learn their letters.
Yeah.
Keep focusing on it in small group instruction.
Yeah.
And I sent out an email because this is also, I think, an important way that we can get at this. For phonics times, did those times that I sent out last week work? Were those still the times that you're doing phonics?
Yeah, I don't think I got that email.
Really? Because I do want to go in, because I think that that's also going to be a big lever for us, not necessarily the
Oh, got it here.
phonics 2.0 follow-up, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's right when I can.
Because I think like that's also just, I think, foundational and like none, you know, it's kind of like to quote a phrase there, right, the rising tide that lifts all ships, right? Like until that piece is in place, we're not going to see a lot of traffic. Like there's a ceiling to how far we can get without students having mastered that. And so what I'd really like to do here as an action step and as a next step to make sure that students are able to kind of attend to letters and attend to sounds in a way that's going to help them better achieve this is there a time that I can model some fun?